This is the Executive Functions Skill Building Program training webinar. This research-based program is going to support your RTI, IEP Goal Mastery, struggling students, freshman advancement, and general support for your content area. My name is Pleasant Rich. I am an instructional solutions consultant with Premier, and I have focused my work on finding solutions for schools in deficit areas, such as special education, math, English, ESL groups, and other areas that have shown weaknesses over the years. I work mostly with Virginia and also Delaware and the District of Columbia. I wanted you to have my contact information, as I am a direct link for you to ask questions about your program and to find the answers to make it more effective in its use. Please do not hesitate to call me or email me with any questions that you have, or to set something up after the presentation if you still have more questions and need more support. There are 5 objectives to this program today. The first one is that you leave knowing the research and the how and the whys of this program. It's important that you understand the significance of these skills and the significance of the development of these lessons so that you implement the program effectively in your classroom. The second is that you understand and have ease of use with this program. Having been a former teacher, I know how frustrating it is to get a program in your hands and not know exactly where to start and how to use it, and the benefits of using certain parts of the program over some of the other ones within your classroom. I want you to be comfortable using this program. I want you to be able to step away, pick it up, plan with it, and put it into your classroom effectively and quickly so that you can support your students the best way possible. I also want you to hear suggestions from schools that have already been using this program. This is not a one-shoe-fits-all type of program. You are going to have to adapt it to meet the needs of your kids. The beauty of it is that this program is designed to be differentiated amongst many students and many classrooms. You can use it how it works for you. The fourth thing is for your IEP correlations. I know that you are working hard in your classrooms and hard outside of your classrooms to manage your time and to manage the responsibilities and expectations that are given to you. I want you to see how using this is going to cut down on the planning and the time that you're working to support those IEPs. This program directly supports what you are already doing, and it makes your evidence collection more authentic, and it makes it much more directed towards the student mastery. The last thing I want you to see is the online tools and resources. I personally appreciate one binder and one student notebook, knowing that all I have to do is look at that one book and I have all of the resources that I need at my fingertips. For those who are more technology inclined, we do have resources available to you to give the extra support and the extra boost in your instruction. We understand frustration as teachers, and kids understand frustrations, especially our students that already are showing evidence of those deficits. Having sat in many break rooms, I have heard many conversations that are consistently repeated over and over and over again. We are frustrated that our students are not doing things that we expect them to already do. We are frustrated because they're not coming in with the skills that we think they should have, whether it be planning or materials management or organization or study habits or note taking or just below average educational type of skills and academic skills. We are frustrated. And I hear the same thing over and over again within the multiple grade levels. I hear from elementary, they should know it from home. They should be getting it at home. I hear it from middle school. They should be getting it at the elementary level. The elementary school should be teaching this to them. I hear it from the high school. They should be getting this from middle school. They should know this by now. And then I hear from the freshmen teachers at the higher education level. They should have had this sometime within their K-12 instructional time. The reality is that our kids are missing out on that type of instruction. And if we aren't explicitly teaching our kids executive function skills, which are foundational to the core, and it's foundational for them mastering any content we're giving to them, if we are not explicitly teaching those to them, then we cannot expect them to have them mastered already. So I'd like for you to start this webinar by wiping the slate clean and not thinking about the expectations you have on your kids already, but thinking about what have I explicitly taught them and what are the frustrations that I need to address to make my year more smooth and to run more effectively and to be able to get my kids to acquire and master the most skills possible. These executive function skills, if you look at this slide, they include a lot of the things that we are frustrated with. Goal-directed behaviors. That is in the majority of IEPs that we are serving today. Goal-setting programs are all out there. SMART goals, different types of programs that are supporting goal-directed behaviors. We are looking at that because we know it's a weakness area. Organization is a huge issue in schools today. I remember in my classes, guidance counselors would pull kids out of study hall type periods that were designed for remediation. They would pull them out to help them organize their binders. And that's not something that we think is something we should teach. However, if our kids cannot organize their notes and organize themselves, then anything we are giving them in the classroom is falling to the wayside. Self-regulation is the ultimate goal of any teacher. We want our kids to be able to regulate their own learning and regulate their behavior. With their time management, most students are unaware of the actual time they're spending on different types of projects and behaviors. I had a student that was very frustrated one day because I gave homework, and I asked him why he was frustrated. And his response was, I am so busy tonight because I have a travel baseball game and I'm going to be traveling there all night long and then playing the game. I'm not going to be able to do this homework, and I know you're not going to be happy with me if I don't get this homework done. And I said, well, how far away is your travel game? And he told me 2 hours. And I said, well, what are you going to be doing in the car? And his look was priceless because it was blank and it was almost like he'd been caught. He had no idea what he'd be doing in those 2 hours, and he never thought to plan ahead with his time and think this is when I'm going to be doing my homework or when I'm going to be studying and when I'm going to be preparing for class. And so time management is a big deal to get kids to be able to schedule out their time and their days to make their time more effective. Focusing and maintaining attention is one of the cores of many of our labels that we give to kids and many of the diagnoses that we give to kids. The focus and the attention is a frustration point in schools all over our country. And we have suggestions, tips, ideas, lessons directed at reining in the focus of our kids and helping them to maintain that focus and attention within the classroom. A lot of the wave in education has been getting kids to be strategic in their learning, to have those critical thinking skills, and to be able to purposefully analyze their learning and their behaviors. This is what the program helps students to do. Problem solving is a 21st century skill. We need kids to be able to look at a problem, to analyze it, to break it apart, and to find a solution. They cannot be stuck in one track. They have to be able to adapt and to be able to be flexible. Students cannot do that if they cannot look at a situation or a problem or a chunk of information and break it apart, analyze it, reflect on it, and manipulate it. We have to teach kids to do that. Students who are self-aware are much more successful than students who are not aware of their learning capabilities, of their learning behaviors, of their behavior within a classroom. Students who are more self-aware are going to be much more highly successful than other kids. And the last thing is that application to social settings. We have written in IEPs those behavioral goals, how kids are behaving in a social setting, which is going to be the classroom. And when kids are not acting appropriately in a social setting, ultimately they are hindering their learning capabilities. They are hindering the learning capabilities of those around them. They're hindering the learning capabilities of themselves. They are stopping the flow of potential learning within a classroom. So teaching students how to maintain an appropriate behavior within a social setting is a key to success. These are all executive function skills. If we do not explicitly teach kids how to work on these skills without muddling it within the content of our courses, we can't expect kids to be masters of these skills. You all work far too hard within their IEPs and within their goals and within your classrooms on a regular basis. You work far too hard to get them to be successful in content to ignore these executive function skills. Dr. Georgia Bozadeh is the lead researcher for the Rush Neurobehavioral Center in the area of these executive function skills. She is the one that has done the case studies over many years, looking at how executive function skills are developed in students and how they are promoted and strengthened over a course of time. When the program was completed and written, we did some case studies right in the heart of Chicago City Public Schools. The research implications showed that the kids that had higher self-discipline habits, that were consistently using behaviors that were geared towards academic success, that they were performing higher than those students with higher IQs. It also showed that when you have a student with self-discipline, that's going to predict if they're going to improve their grades over a school year more so than students that do not have the self-discipline. I think we all have seen that in our classrooms. We know that if we have kids that are disciplined, that are doing their work, that are coming prepared, that are showing up ready to learn, that they are going to be more successful than the kids that are not. Self-discipline is a learned behavior, and this program is going to help you teach kids how to become self-disciplined and promote it on a regular basis. When I first began looking at the comparisons of the research that showed the differences between self-disciplined students and students who did not have that self-discipline, it was a no-brainer to me that, of course, self-disciplined students are going to get better grades. They're going to have higher selections to high schools and colleges. They're going to have fewer absences. Of course, they're going to be able to work on long-term assignments earlier than students who are not self-disciplined. Of course, they're going to be doing that. But here again lies the idea of expectations versus reality. The reality is that students can learn self-discipline, but they have to be taught. We cannot expect that students are just born with self-discipline or that they are going to inherit self-discipline skills along the way. We have to teach kids how to be self-disciplined. And the research shows that kids will learn these skills, that they will soak up these skills, that they will practice these skills if we are consistently reinforcing them and explicitly showing them how these skills are going to support them in the long run. So you can see the research the implications and the comparisons. The self-disciplined students are going to be far more successful than the kids who are not self-disciplined. The thing is that if you don't teach it to your kids, it's not going to happen. This program is designed to help kids learn how to be self-disciplined in a way that is easy for them to manage and looked at as a tool that they can use in every area of their life instead of just one more thing or one separate class. This means a lot for you as a teacher. As a former teacher, I know that there were things that just irked me within the classroom. When a kid could not self-regulate their behaviors and monitor their actions and calm themselves down and make good decisions and decide to learn, that was a stumbling block for me in the classroom. If they couldn't manage their time and their materials, that was frustrating because that took away instructional time from me in the classroom, and it also took instructional time away from the other kids or the remediation time that I could be using for that one student. These types of skills will benefit you in the classroom. It's hard to separate skill building instruction from content-based instruction, but you cannot have one without the other. If kids do not develop the skills to be able to evaluate their own performance, to revise their plans, to solve problems, to manage their time, their materials, their behaviors, if they don't develop those skills, you're going to see the effects in your classroom. However, if you take the time to explicitly teach them, you will see the benefits multiplied within a regular basis in your classroom. The next portion of this training is going to go over the structure of your binders and the structure of the lesson plans. I'm also going to show you some suggestions on how to implement this more effectively into your classrooms. If you look at your binder, you're going to see that the tabs divide the units. These units do not have to be done in sequential order. They can be mixed around to support the needs of your kids. It's based on what your kids need and the deficits that you're seeing in your classroom. Units 1 and 2, the overview and the classroom structure, are for your reference only. Unit 1 is going to be your table of contents and give you reference on how to use the materials. This is a great piece to share with new teachers, and it's also great to share with parents who want more information on executive functions. The second tab for your classroom setup is a piece that will help you reflect on how you're structuring your environment within your classroom. These are research-based tips and suggestions on how to make it easier for students to transition within your room and to make the executive function skills more prominent within your classroom. Units 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 are going to include all of the student lessons and going to include the materials you're going to need for your classroom. Each unit is going to start with a unit overview. So if you flip to section 3 in your binder, which is going to be materials management, you will see the page that is on the screen right now. Each unit overview has a description of the student self-assessment that's included in the student handbook. It also has the lessons listed out and the objectives and approximate time. If you flip to the next page, you'll see there's a piece called Reflecting on Your Practice. Here's a suggestion for you. These reflecting on your practice pieces are going to allow you to prepare for your instruction in a much more meaningful way. It asks questions that make you think about how you are implementing these executive function skills within your classroom on a regular basis. After having taught my last year and being on full evaluation and supporting the evidence, the professional competencies, using these are a great way to support those competencies and make your evidence collection more streamlined. If you are on evaluation or if you have a a professional goal that's tailored towards an executive function improvement within your classroom, this is a great way for you to support that evidence collection. The next page in your binder will either be the Student Self-Assessment Blackline Master if you're working in the middle school binder, or it's going to be the Progress Monitoring Chart if you're in the high school. These student self-assessments are unique in how they question the students. They focus the kids on the specific executive function skills and help broaden their perspective on how this is used on a regular basis. For example, if you ask a student, how well do you study? The majority of kids are going to think about when they sit down, have the book in front of them or their notes, and what they're doing at that exact moment. They're not thinking about what they're doing in class to help with their studying. They're not thinking about how they're managing their notes, which is going to help them when they're studying. They're not thinking about what they're doing with their assessments afterwards to help them study for the next assessment coming up. So the questions are going to help them think about the broader picture and really identify weak areas in their lives. The way the students are going to take this assessment is they're going to rate themselves on a scale of 0 to 3 on how they feel they're doing within each question area. When they have finished rating themselves, they will sum up the scores. Each assessment has a total of 24 points that can possibly be given to a student. Using the progress monitoring chart, you can see that it has the numbers 0 through 24 listed. If a student takes an assessment and they rate themselves at a 5, on that date, you can circle the number 5 and see that they have not yet established that skill. These self-assessments can be given at any point to reassess themselves and to see if progress has been made. It's great to look back on the original assessment that the students have done so that they can see areas that they've grown, and they can also see areas that have become stagnant or that have decreased. This makes a great conversation starter for you and the students, and also to have a student-to-student conversation of how they're doing better in one area and what suggestions they have for the other students. Teachers can also complete these assessments as an observation tool. You can look at a student and observe their behavior and give the student a rating based on the behaviors you're seeing displayed in the classroom. Again, this makes a great conversation piece when a student gives themselves a higher rating or a lower rating than what you give the kids. It's a great question to say, what behaviors are you thinking that you're displaying, and explain and justify your answer, and here's what I'm seeing in class as well, and how can we bridge that gap between the two. The next part that we're going to talk about is the actual lesson plan structure. The lessons are all designed the same way, so you don't have to look for anything new in each lesson plan. The objectives are clearly listed out at the top of the page next to the unit name. The lesson time is a suggested time. Reality is that it's probably going to take a little bit longer in the courses that you're going to be putting this in. The nice thing about this program is the flexibility, so you don't have to feel bound by the time that is suggested. You can break these lessons apart. The materials and preparation for the lesson is going to tell you the items that you need, also how you need to plan ahead for this lesson. Within the materials section, you will see the student guide pages that will correlate to that lesson. One note you need to make is that within the first lesson of each unit, the self-assessment will be embedded in those student guide pages. You can give the student self-assessment in isolation. However, if you want to just follow the lesson plan to the T, it will be given in the first lesson of each unit. If you need to break down a lesson for time or for other purposes, use the color blocks as a transition guide and to show you where the start and stop of each new activity is within the lesson. So you can see on this slide, there's a discuss, introduce, initiate, and incorporate piece. If you needed to break this lesson in half, you could do the discussion piece one day along with the introduction piece, and the next day do the initiate and incorporate. The last thing that you're going to need to make note of is the bridging to the classroom piece. That's at the bottom of each lesson and quite possibly the most important piece to this program to make this program a success in your school. I'd like for you to get the picture in your mind of two islands and a vast expanse of water between them. One of those islands is our explicit skill building instruction. That's what the Executive Functions program is, an explicit program to develop and support the executive function skills in kids. They are explicit skill instruction lessons. The other island is going to be your content. Content meaning your standards that you are teaching on a regular basis that the kids have to have. The problem with having two islands is that if we are just on one of the islands, kids can't be successful. You can't teach a kid skills and not show them how to apply them on a regular basis in a content area. You also cannot expect a student who has not mastered the skills to be able to master the content and the rigor and the critical thinking applications that we expect of them. We can't expect that if we haven't taught them the skill-based instruction. You have to be able to create a bridge between the two islands and make the connection for the kids. Having a balance of skill-based instruction and content-based instruction and show them how to connect the two. That's what the bridging to the classroom piece is going to do. After you have explicitly taught this lesson, the executive function lesson, and I'm saying you should maybe teach one lesson a week depending on the type of skill that you are trying to support. When you've taught the lesson, you then have to help the students make the connections of how it will support them within the content area. Bridging the classroom will give you tips and suggestions, ways that you can easily incorporate and reinforce that explicit skill instruction. This is also a great tool to promote collaboration amongst your professional groups. I have a lot of schools that are sharing the bridging to the classroom pieces in a weekly email or through their PLC meetings or just on a collaborative basis within their conversations during team planning. The bridging to the classroom piece is essential for success in this program. When preparing for planning the implementation in your classroom, I find that it's easier to make a distinction between the behavioral components of executive function skills and the academic support that they will give to you. The behaviors would include materials management, time management, and decision making. Those are things that students can make habits to make them more effective in their academic career. That would include them becoming more organized or planning out their time to study, planning out their time beyond the classroom, making decisions in the long term, but also making those decisions relatively quickly and thinking about the consequences that would apply to each one. The academic piece is going to include the study strategies unit, which is going to be your meatiest unit out of this program. Each lesson within the study strategies unit can be applied to every content area. You'll notice that the examples in the lessons are identified by content, such as math preparation, writing, reading preparation, test preparation, and so forth. However, it's important to understand that even if it says math preparation, like the troubleshooting journal, the concept behind the troubleshooting journal and the skill that's used to create the troubleshooting journal can be applied in a reading class, in a science class, in a general way for test preparation. It can be applied to any area within the academic setting. So those are foundational learning skills that, using the bridge to the classroom piece, you can show kids how to incorporate them in all of their content classes. The one that's going to be shared between the academics and behavior is going to be the goal setting unit, which is Unit 6. You can use goal setting for making positive choices and changing behavior, and you can also make goals that apply to academic achievement. One of the most frequently asked questions that I hear is, how would this look if we're teaching this, let's say, in 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade over a multi-year plan? If we're all teaching the same curriculum, how is it going to be different from year to year? This gives you an idea of how you can break the program over a multi-year period in the same school so that everyone is getting something different each year. I strongly recommend that this program be broken over a multi-year implementation because of the content within each lesson. Remember, each lesson is an explicit skill-based lesson. You're not going to want to teach one lesson one day, move on to the next lesson the next day. It doesn't work that way. When you teach one lesson a week and then support it throughout the rest of the week using the Bridging to the Classroom and practice it, that's going to only get you through a part of the program. So here's how it can look over a multi-year time frame. Let's say if you're teaching in grade 6. Grade 6 is going to focus on the behaviors of the executive function program. They would do that every single year, teach units 3, 4, 6, and 7. Grade 7 and grade 8 would also teach the behaviors during that first year of implementation. Everyone teaches the same thing. This is a great strategy because as a 7th grade teacher and as an 8th grade teacher, you now have the same expectations of your upcoming kids because you know what they've been taught. Year 2, again, grade 6 is going to stay the same, but grade 7 and grade 8 is going to move on to the academic piece. They would review the behaviors that were taught in grade 6, usually during the first quarter, setting up their materials management structure in their classroom, reviewing the time management, but then they're going to move into those academic skills, which would be found in Units 5 and Unit 8. You'll see that Unit 6 is also going to be retaught in Year 2. Unit 6 is the goal setting unit. And again, as I said before, the goal setting piece can be done for behaviors and it can be done for academics. Year 3, grade 6 stays the same. Grade 7 is going to continue with the reviewing the behavior and focusing then on the academic piece. Grade 8 is going to have a review of the behavior and continue implementing the academic strategies using the Bridging to the Classroom pieces. This is also going to be a year for intervention. If you see that a student is continuing to show weakness in the same areas, using the Bridging to the Classroom piece is going to help with intervention and support those deficit skills. If you are using the middle school curriculum, you are definitely going to want to teach Unit 5, Lessons 1 and 2 every single year. Whether the kids have heard it in 6th grade or not, they still need to hear it in 7th grade and in 8th grade. Lesson 1 is engaged listening in Unit 5. Lesson 2 is following written directions. These are 2 lessons that could dramatically improve your student achievement if the students learn how to consistently apply the strategies taught in those 2 lessons. Again, those 2 lessons should be taught every single year and reviewed. They can become whole school initiatives, especially Lesson 2 in Unit 5, using that strategy in every classroom. For the high school, the engaged listening and following written directions is taught in Unit 5, Lesson 1. It expands it a little bit further and teaches kids how to really break apart essay questions and to actually answer the questions and demonstrate the skill that is being asked within that essay question. So that one should be taught every single year. You need to be flexible with this program. You're going to find that some of your kids need lessons more than others. you're going to find that the sequence of lessons that works for one of your teachers may not work for the other classroom. The program is designed to adapt to what you need it to be. So don't be afraid to change things around and to work the lessons how you need them to fit into your classroom. When you're working on a review, the best way to do that is through the student self-assessments. If you follow the multi-year implementation plan, whether you're doing a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade or a 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, which would work the same way as the middle school did, you can have the books follow the kids from year to year. So imagine if an 11th grader is looking back on their self-assessments that they took in 9th grade, which are all contained in their little student books. They can see how far they've come. They can also see areas that they have not improved over the years, and you can intervene based on their assessments of themselves. Using those bridging to the classroom pieces as intervention is going to be so important for their success. If you know that there's a deficit skill area, you can bring in your content and focus the kids using those skills on how to master your content and bring in that executive function skill. The last thing I want you to note is that you can use your IEP data to plan for implementation. What I'm going to show you in a few slides is how you can correlate your IEP goals directly to the lessons used in this executive function program. So using your IEPs as a starting point to see what areas your kids are most needing is going to help you plan more effectively and to create a structure that is best suited for your classroom. This is a snapshot of an Excel spreadsheet that is attached to the email that you found the webinar training in. This sheet is going to allow you to correlate your IEP goals with the lessons that are taught in the executive functions curriculum. The nice thing about our program is that the lessons will directly support IEP mastery. So you can take one of your IEPs and look at the goals that are listed and find 3 to 4, sometimes even more lessons that will explicitly teach the steps that the kids need to master those skills. For example, if a student has a goal that's related to task completion, they're going to need to know and be able to master the planning out of completing the task, breaking down the task, figuring out when they're going to do the task, and then actually completing the task. So those steps are going to be found within the lessons in the executive functions program. You can plan when to teach lessons by looking at this spreadsheet and plotting your IEP goals next to the lessons that they are supported by. You can also record your mastery evidence on the sheet so that you have a one-stop shop for all of your evidence collection. This makes your support of those IEPs so much more authentic and so much more effective when you are teaching explicit lessons that will help students master those goals. You will also receive access to the Executive Functions support site. The website is executivfunctions.schoolspecialty.com and the product code is capital E lowercase xf-1415. When you click the enter button, you will be prompted to put in your product code. Just enter the code listed and you will receive access. This site is very easy to navigate, having only 2 tabs that you're going to need to go to. The first tab, which is your home, is going to include all of the research on the executive functions program, some case studies on the effectiveness, webinars by Dr. Georgia Bozadeh, who is the author and the writer of this curriculum, and also worthwhile white papers that are great to give to parents who would like more information, great for professional conversations, and great for professional development within your building. The second tab, which is download resources, is going to include things that you're going to want to use to enhance your lessons. As I said before in the beginning, this program is nice because you can use just the binder and the student guides and never use any of the resources on the support site. However, if you'd like to enhance your lessons, you can find some of these things to be very useful as technology enhancement pieces. Under the family information link to the left, you're going to find a sheet that's called Parent Information and Tips for Homework. This is a great resource to print and give to your parents during IEP meetings, back to school night, to include in newsletters, to post on your website. It's tips and information for how parents can support their students in the executive function skills at home. Under the high school resources, middle school resources, and elementary resources, you will find each unit listed that you would find in your binder. When you click on those individual units, you will find the monthly progress monitoring charts, which are used to identify the mastery level based on the student self-assessment under each one of those units. These are fillable PDFs that can be used for multiple students. That way you don't have to keep printed copies in your files. I suggest going through at the beginning of this program and creating a desktop folder and going through and downloading these fillable PDFs to those folders so you have easy access to them at all times. You're also going to find templates for some of the resources that you would find within the binder itself. For example, when you're teaching note-taking or different types of diagrams and charts, you can model that type of skill using these templates on the website. You're also going to see resources that you can project and show on your whiteboards or your smart boards as a model for your kids. Under the link that says implementation, you will see it's listed under middle school, high school, and elementary school. You're going to find within those links there are PowerPoint presentations that correlate to some of the units in the executive functions binder. I have attached a document that shows you every unit in your binder, and if it has a fillable or projectable PDF correlated to the lessons, or if it has a PowerPoint that correlates to the lessons as well. This will make it easy for you to know if you need to go to the website to get some technology pieces. If you have any questions, please feel free to call me. I would love to stop in your school and see how your progress is going. Please save my contact information and shoot me an email if you have questions, feedback, or comments on this presentation. Thank you and have a great day.